Hi everyone, Renee here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's video is going to be all about hyperpigmentation. Pigmentation has definitely been an issue for me. I feel like it's important to identify the different types of pigmentation that we get on our skin so that we can understand better how to treat them. Many of you commented in my last video that you realized you actually had post-inflammatory erythema, P.I.E, rather than post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, P.I.H, which is a realization I had too. I feel like a lot of cosmetic brands like to lump everything in the pigmentation or brightening category. So regardless of whether you have P.I.E or P.I.H or melasma or sunspots, you will buy their product. In my last video, I talked about post-inflammatory erythema, which is more about the redness that is left behind after you have acne or even like a bad bug bite. It comes from inflammation and irritation on your skin, and it's more of a vascular issue than excess melanin production. Hence the redness rather than the brownness. So treating that is different because it's about lessening the irritation and inflammation, whereas what we're going to talk about today, hyperpigmentation, it's all about melanin production and inhibiting that. Now for a lot of you, particularly if you do have a darker skin tone, you already have more melanin in your skin, then acne marks do tend to be hyperpigmentation. And for anyone, those red marks can turn into post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, particularly if you're not properly protecting your skin from the sunlight. So pretty much with any type of trauma or inflammation to your skin, whether it's acne marks or bug bites or rashes even, your skin will respond by producing more melanin in that area to protect it. Growing up, our parents are always telling us not to scratch, not to pick, and never giving us good enough reasons why. And I feel now that our vanity is involved, we are properly incentivized. So the good thing about post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation is it is the easiest form to treat. So sunspots and age spots are like a localized spot of hyperpigmentation on your skin. I have one right here. It comes from increased sun exposure and it appears more as we age. Affected areas are usually our face, our chest, and our hands, the areas that are always exposed. The lighter ones are obviously easier to treat than the darker ones. So if you already see them appearing, you really want to be diligent about covering that area up and protecting it. Unlike post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, sunspots actually do require consistent maintenance because, they come from the sun, they come from age. You can treat them and lighten them significantly, but if you neglect it, then it will come back. So melasma appear as splotchy patches on your face. In fact, they often have a bit of a map-like appearance. Usually it's around the sides of the face, forehead, bridge of the nose, and in the mustache area. This is usually caused by a combination of sun plus a surge in hormones. So a lot of times pregnancy can cause this, or starting birth control. This is a harder form of hyperpigmentation to treat. It will take longer to fade, but the worst part is that it can come back very easily. So freckles is also lumped into this hyperpigmentation category. My personal opinion, if you have freckles, keep them. They're absolutely charming, and I feel like they're such a unique feature to have. Removing freckles is going to be entirely different from anything we're talking about today. All the treatments and ingredients we're going to go through will not affect freckles. It actually requires lasers to remove these. So I have a sunspot. It's something that's been around for a really, really long time. And actually for the longest time, it was quite faint and unnoticeable, but I did watch it through the years gradually get darker and darker and darker. At that time, nothing available was even remotely effective despite the huge, bold claims. So I actually went on the Obagi Nu-Derm system. My dermatologist recommended that I try that out. After the first week of doing routine, I felt a little bit like a burn victim, so I just decided to ditch all the other actives and just use the hydroquinone on its own twice a day. And instead of putting it over my whole face like it recommended, I just used it to spot treat. So I would say in about 4 months, it really faded the pigmentation. It faded it by about 60 to 70%, which is the best I could have hoped for. I definitely noticed that after a certain point, that continued use of hydroquinone was just not making any more of a difference, so I stopped it immediately. It's not an ingredient that I want to put on my skin and keep using long term. For some, it would work way more effectively than for others, and I have heard stories about how sometimes it actually turns the pigmentation even a little bit grayish. So you do want to watch out for that. I do believe, though, that in this present day, there are far more products that are available to us that actually will help treat these issues. But do keep in mind that treating hyperpigmentation does take a lot of consistency and patience. Now, if you don't have any patience and you want to get rid of it all much faster, then you can explore laser treatments or professional chemical peels, depending on what kind of hyperpigmentation issues you have. We don't all have access to those kind of treatments, so this video is about finding the products that can really help. So first I'm going to go over the different treatments and ingredients that work really well at reducing and fading hyperpigmentation I found, and then after that I'm going to go over which ones work particularly well for each different type of hyperpigmentation. So sunscreen is a no-brainer. Do I even really have to mention it? I mean, when we're talking about hyperpigmentation, it's all about melanin, and the thing that encourages melanin to be produced in our skin is the sun. So use an SPF of at least 30, broad spectrum, or with a PA rating, with the more pluses the better. Alpha-hydroxy acids are also particularly good at dealing with hyperpigmentation. They really help with sun damage by increasing cell turnover in our skin, which in turn will end up fading your dark spots. I find the stronger AHAs actually have a really noticeable impact on pigmentation issues, such as a drunk elephant or the ordinary 30% AHA solutions. Those are once-in-a-week rinse-off masks that I really believe have made a difference. Retinoids are also great at reversing sun damage by encouraging cell turnover. But when you are using retinoids and AHAs, you need to be super careful to make sure you are wearing sunscreen, because it will make your skin that much more sensitive. So vitamin C is not only so important for protecting your skin against the sun, but it's also great at fading sunspots and reversing sun damage as well in your skin. But for that to happen, you really need to be using ascorbic acid of about 20% to use alongside all these other melanin inhibitors or other treatments like AHAs or retinol, just to ensure that it keeps that pigment at bay. So particularly if you have the kind of hyperpigmentation that keeps coming back and reoccurring, like melasma and sunspots, you want to make sure that your skin is armed as well as possible against the sun rays. These next few ingredients are the ones that we know to be the brightening ones. They reduce hyperpigmentation by inhibiting an enzyme called tyrosinase, which is responsible for the formation of melanin. So these are all melanin inhibitors. So kojic acid has been known as an alternative to hydroquinone. I feel like this is one of the more effective ingredients in noticeably brightening the skin and fading marks. This is the main ingredient in a lot of dark spot correcting products like La Roche-Posay's Mela D line, which is their pigment fading line, as well as SkinCeuticals Advanced Pigment Corrector. So what I love about this ingredient is that kojic acid is produced through the sake brewing process of fermented rice. Alpha-arbutin is another alternative to hydroquinone. This is an ingredient that's used in a lot of Asian whitening products. I mentioned in my ordinary review that their 2% alpha-arbutin solution actually did work for me. It definitely took a while of consistent use, but around the 3rd month I began to notice there was a breaking up of pigment in this in my affected spot. I used it every day as a spot treatment, and I feel that that in conjunction with a good vitamin C serum really made all the difference. Niacinamide is something that I felt worked really well for my post-acne redness, but it also does work well as a melanin inhibitor as well, especially when you're talking about concentrations of about 4% or more. But where it really works effectively at fading and minimizing hyperpigmentation is when it's combined with another ingredient called N-acetylglucosamine. This is also a melanin inhibitor, but it's been found that both these ingredients work better together than as individual components when dealing with hyperpigmentation. Paula's Choice Resist Skin Brightening Treatment has both these ingredients in it, and I think it's formulated at 4% niacinamide and 2% N-acetylglucosamine. You'll find this combination found in many whitening and brightening ingredients, as well as like a lot of BB and CC creams. Licorice root extract is another ingredient that you'll find in so many Asian products. It's present almost in every product I own. It's somewhere there on the ingredients list. This is also a melanin inhibitor that's great for brightening up the skin. So from least difficult to most difficult to get rid of, let's talk about the different forms of hyperpigmentation and what are the best ways to treat them. All the melanin inhibitors that were mentioned today will help hyperpigmentation no matter what form it comes in. Post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation can be effectively treated with some good acids and a great vitamin C serum. You don't actually need retinol to get rid of this. When you're talking about age and sunspots, retinoids can really make a difference here alongside all the other treatments that can help inhibit melanin production. Do remember that even after it successfully fades, it can come back if you neglect it. Melasma is probably the most resistant form of hyperpigmentation, only in that it takes very little for it to just keep coming back and for it to get darker. So you have to be so conscientious about treating it. Chemical AHA treatments are particularly good at treating melasma. A good vitamin C, retinoids, pretty much everything across the board will help treat melasma. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and until next time, I'm wishing you great skin health. Bye!